Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the Investor Shed podcast. I'm Nick Beveridge here with the co-host Jeremy Kitchen, and we talk politics today.
We're getting down and dirty to some political conversation. We got a new president-elect, so this is going to be an episode that we're going to be airing out as soon as possible. Nick and I have a little bit different political views, and we kind of go into how it's going to be changing the country and what we can do going forward.
I thought we had a very productive talk.
We did, and we don't hate each other, and that's actually very important.
We don't hate each other.
You know what's very important, though? What's more important than not hating each other is what kind of food should people be indulging in on this episode?
Oh, gosh. Oatmeal with raisins.
Ooh, see, that's a polarizing statement right there. Raisins and oatmeal?
You don't like raisin oatmeal?
No, fuck oatmeal.
Okay. Enjoy the podcast, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Nick Beveridge. You're here listening to the Investor Shed podcast with the greatest co-host of all, Jeremy Kitchen.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm only the greatest co-host because I'm your only co-host. I like, by default, I'm your greatest co-host. But thank you.
Okay, we're going to start off getting real pessimistic, aren't we?
I am not pessimistic. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. If you're watching us on Facebook Live, congratulations, because I don't think we actually pushed that button. But if you are, that's awesome. If you're watching us on Instagram Live, hello over there as well. We are going to be talking about politics today. So we're going to be talking about everyone's favorite taboo subject.
We are on Facebook, by the way.
We are?
Facebook and Twitter.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah. Election results are in. And we have a new president-elect. His name is Donald Trump. Everybody knows that by now, I'm sure.
Everybody knows that.
Hey, maybe you want to know our take on it. Maybe. Huh? What do you think?
Yeah. People want to know what we feel and how we feel about this situation. But really what we're going to try to do, we're going to try to do two things. We're going to try to have a civil discussion about politics, which I'm fairly sure Nick and I can do that. And we're going to talk about the implications of the presidency and how that's going to affect real estate and business and basically how the world works.
Yes. I think this should be interesting because Jeremy and I are not politically aligned.
Yeah.
Not always. Sometimes.
Not always. And like, I think like in my course of my life, I've come to realize that like I don't think I fit a color.
Yeah, you're politically homeless, like Joe Rogan says.
Yeah, politically homeless. That sounds right. Like I don't know, man. This is where it starts getting weird with politics. But like, you know, everyone has an opinion.
You can be honest here. Nobody's listening.
Yeah, nobody's listening. We've got like one person alive already.
Yeah.
I tend to lean more left.
Yeah.
And which is a rare thing in Idaho.
Yeah.
But also I don't agree with every policy that both sides have because again, it's not a one shoe fits all scenario.
Yeah. And for most of my adult life, I had tend to lean towards Alex Jones and
the gay frogs.
The gay frogs. Libertarianism and, you know, I was a Ron Paul guy. I've almost always voted independent. And it seems as if this is maybe, I don't think it's just me, but it seems like the left has moved so far left, they're almost like extreme right.
Sure.
In ways. And then it seems like the right has moved, not all of them, but like there's a lot of people on the right that kind of moved to my home in the center.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is interesting. I mean, you've got people like Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, all these people that are kind of like going to be involved in this new administration. And I like those people a lot.
Yeah.
And I like what they're going to do to help out this country.
Yeah. I've got mad respect for Elon Musk. I thought he was a little more, I guess, right than I thought. So is he more middle ground? Is that what I'm hearing?
He was a Democrat forever. He voted for Biden.
Okay.
Only recently has he realized the whole country's just fucking corrupt. and he, you know, he had a change of heart.
Sure.
Or like I said earlier, the blue changed.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people in that administration, this is not my words, but you know, they kind of went a little extreme.
Yeah.
And went another direction almost.
And please, like, I want you to be candid on this conversation. Don't hold anything back. One, you're not going to offend me. We're just two adults talking about how things are and our opinions of it.
I know I'm not going to offend you, but I will offend people out there, and I kind of apologize, I guess, for it.
Right.
I'm not going to claim that I know everything and that I'm right about everything. All I can claim is that I kind of know how I work in society, and I know everybody's got a different perspective of how society should work for them.
Yeah.
depending on where they are, where they live, race, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all these factors
There's
come
so
into
many.
play for
There's
sure.
so many different factors, and that's why politics is so polarizing and complicated because it does affect everybody a little bit differently.
Right.
I don't have to worry about abortion.
Right.
I know other people do.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to be right about that. Probably.
Right. And again, like what you said, like I think like because you are more right or center aligned, and me being more, I guess it's hard to even put me in a color anymore, man. But like statistically being more left, like I see all the crazy on the right.
Yeah,
and
there's some crazy
on the right,
there.
you see all the crazy on the left, and that's part of the divide, unfortunately. Like that's part of the system that has been. We're not a united front anymore. We are.
I don't think that's true.
You don't think that's true?
I think that you see the extremes in the media.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's mostly what's highlighted. But I feel like this is my guess. My theory is that 80% of Americans are aligned with 80% of their beliefs.
I would agree with you there, 100%. 100% on your 80% beliefs.
And I'm going to say that one more time. I'm going to say about 80% of the country is aligned with about 80% of the people with about 80% of their beliefs. So most people agree on most things.
Right.
But not everything.
You are right. Absolutely. Most people do agree on most things. And like you said, that 80%, like we can all kind of coexist in that 80%.
We can, but people want to tear us apart.
But people want to tear us apart. Exactly.
People want to divide. People want attention. People want to be the people that do get attention are the most extreme.
Right. It's like we were talking before the show, and that's actually kind of what prompted this. I was saying, like, you kind of get force-fed information from both sides.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, it feels like mom and dad are fighting and slandering each other now, and I don't feel like I believe either of them.
Right.
That's me personally. Like the right's like, I'm going to use bad words here. It's like the right's like, Kamala Harris eats babies. And then Kamala's like,
Okay.
well, Trump fucks
Who said
babies.
that?
Nobody says that.
Okay,
That's like what it feels like, right?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
someone eats babies, someone has sex with babies.
Oh,
And that's what the, and they're like, ugh.
They exaggerate.
They do exaggerate 100%. Like
Yeah.
everything you see, like, again, I was at the gym the other day and I saw slander for both sides, just like tearing each other apart. And,
Sure.
And again, in my mind, I'm like, how is this helping? It's helping create a divide.
Yep. And I feel like it's always been that way.
It has been, yes.
I mean, I remember my parents arguing with their siblings about politics when
Yeah.
I was a kid. I think people have always argued about politics. I think it's always been a little crazy. And I feel like lately, I'm just theorizing here, but I feel like lately it's not been as bad as it was a few years ago.
Okay.
I feel like, 2016, 2020, that kind of time frame, there's riots on the street, people going crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been that many riots yet.
Not that we've seen.
Yeah. And that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
I don't think it's a proper response to have a temper tantrum.
I agree with
publicly.
you. Fully agree with you.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
on either side.
yeah, 100%. Like, I think you are very well entitled to your opinion, and you're entitled to believe in what you believe in.
Yeah. I also don't think it's a good idea for Jimmy Kimmel to cry on air like a little bitch about
do
the
that?
election results.
Did he do that?
Yes.
I didn't see that.
And I just think that's the most immature thing
Right.
you can possibly do is just call out more than half of America and think that you're better than everyone. And you're just going to cry like a bitch on a show where you're supposed to be a comedian.
Sure.
But that's me.
Sure, and I understand fully like that. On the opposite side, though, again, like the when Trump lost last time, the Republicans were all up in arms and
They were.
calling people names. And
They felt like they got cheated.
right. They felt like they got cheated.
And maybe they did. Maybe
they
they
did.
And maybe they didn't. But there's no proof.
Right. There's no proof, and that's kind of what I wanted.
The
to
proof
say.
is coming, apparently. And this is where I can agree with you that like there's hysteric,
Yes.
things going on in each side.
Right.
I just feel like I just feel like it's more of the hypocriticism comes from blue lately,
Okay.
and I didn't always feel that way.
Sure. And I think and don't quote me on this, but anytime a party loses, you are going to see some outlash,
Yep.
and you're going to see a little bit more hypocrism kind of show up.
Sure.
Because people are passionate about this, right?
Oh yeah.
They're passionate about it, and like when their side loses, it feels like I don't know what it feels like. I honestly felt nothing this election.
Right.
I made my money on Robinhood when Trump won. Yeah, that's what I did. I'm like, all right, cool. I made $20.
Yeah. So tell us, if you don't mind,
Mm-hmm.
take your time, don't hold back. Why did you vote Democrat this year?
Mm-hmm. I wish I had like a really clear answer for you, Nick. I really do. Like, my vote kind of came out of confusion a little bit.
Okay.
Typically, the person I've seen Trump to be is not someone who upholds the law of what I think a president should be.
Okay, that's fair.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not trying to badmouth him. That's not exactly what I'm doing. Like, he won a fair election, and honestly, congratulations. Like, okay, here's what I hope. I hope he does everything he says he's going to do. I hope he says he's going to fix, the economy, prices, fuel, real estate. I hope he gets all that under control.
Yeah.
Because that will look really good on him. What I don't hope he does is when he loses, because last time when he lost the election, he had those people.
Well, he can't lose anymore.
He can't lose anymore.
He's going to be done.
People say that he's going to try to make it so you can have a third term, and I'm like, I don't believe that.
Yeah,
I don't know where people get this information.
Has he ever said that?
I don't know exactly.
So people make up shit on both sides.
People make up shit on both sides, 100%.
And the unfortunate thing is it did have an effect on your decision because people were making up bullshit.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to believe anymore.
Right. And again, I'm not so ingrained in politics. Like, I saw a meme one time, and it's basically sums up my political views very well. It's like, I just want my gay friends to have their guns and smoke all the weed they want. Like, I want like same-sex marriage, gun rights, and people just smoke weed because I think that helps a lot of people's anxiety.
There were a lot of gays that voted for Trump.
Were there?
Yep.
Wow.
I counted them.
Hashtag gays for Trump. Okay.
I don't think that there's some thing about like on the right trying to take away gay rights. I think it was more the extreme left position on like weird stuff when it comes to transgender operations on children.
Right.
And I think that's their main focus is like, let's get rid of all that crazy nonsense that is destroying children before they can really grow their brain enough to understand what they want in life.
And I would agree with you there.
And like when they're an adult, go ahead and have your sex operation.
Yeah,
but like my kids at some point would both love to change their gender if we let them.
Yeah.
Because they like to do new stuff. They like to do like that's, and I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
I fully believe that if we asked Holden, would you like to be a girl? 1 week he'd probably be like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And let's run him down and get him changed. Like that. I feel like that's got to stop.
Right.
And that's my belief. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am.
Right.
I don't think that kids should be making up their mind if they should get, manipulate their hormones at an early age before puberty.
And I fully agree with you there. Like, I'm all for transgender rights. They should be whatever side they are on. They should be treated as a human.
Yeah, sure. But they've got to be of age.
I agree with you there. And that was going to be my next point. Like,
yeah.
But also, it's not my kid, not my choice, right? So, like,
well, yeah. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't think that. So, I think that people shouldn't be able to make bad choices for their kids.
Sure. And
just because it's their kids.
I do agree with you there. But I don't know how I want to put this. So, yeah, that's out of my sphere of control. How about that?
Right.
So
it's out of your control.
It's out of my control.
But maybe the law can control it a little bit because the law was going more and more lenient. And also taking away rights from their parents slowly, that their parents wouldn't have a choice at some point.
Okay. And how would this affect us as a nation?
How would it affect us?
Yeah. Like by letting this
by the government getting too involved.
Sure.
In your children, in these crazy things that they shouldn't be making up their mind until they're an adult.
So you're saying the government's getting involved to stop it, though, right?
They will now. They were getting involved to be more and more lenient.
Sure. But now they're getting involved to stop it. And one way or another, again, they're going to be getting involved.
getting involved to stop the going back to normal common sense practice of like, hey, if you want to change your gender, sure, but not till you're 18. Like a lot of things you can't do till you're 18.
Yeah,
you can't even own you can't even own something till you're 18.
Right.
You can't get a tattoo till you're 18. You can't rent a car until you're 25.
Right.
You can't drink alcohol until you're 21. You can't smoke cigarettes till you're 18.
Right.
And there are reasons for that, and it has to do with your development in your brain, and not causing harm to somebody who doesn't know what's best for them.
Right. And I would even wager, to be honest, like 18 is kind of a small starting point for that.
Yeah, I know.
We are not fully evolved at 18 years old.
Yeah, I've been 18. I was still definitely a child.
I was an idiot until I was like 30.
But there are some 18-year-olds that are very mature.
Yeah, absolutely. But those people are probably not going to be the ones that are like thinking about a sex change.
Yeah, but 5-year-olds, come on. Let's not destroy people's lives that don't know better for themselves.
I fully agree with you there. Yeah, I really do. Again, but it's just weird. And just going back to the right wing, I guess, like most of them, they have biblical values, which are fine, right?
Sure.
That's where gay rights come in, because it says, everyone really focuses in on this, a man shall not lay with a man type of thing.
Right.
And it's none of my business at that point who you have sex with.
So you had Trump in office for 4 years. He never took away gay rights.
I'm sure he did a lot to hinder, more than you think.
What did he do?
See, and this is where I'm going to misquote because I don't know.
Okay.
But from what I've seen, people say, they make it harder for gays to get like insurance or like the basic civil needs.
Okay, I've never heard that.
Okay, and I could be wrong, right? Because I'm not totally ingrained in politics.
Yeah. So we can skip past that if we don't really know what we're talking about.
I don't know what we're talking about. Again, like just that meme always kind of summed it up for me. Like, I want my people to be able to do whatever they want, but I also agree with, like you said, on transgender rights, there should be a stipulation of some sorts.
Right.
But there also should be a stipulation with gun control.
Sure.
Like, there should be a mental health check for that, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think just anybody should be able to buy a gun. But I also think we should be careful how we approach that.
Yeah.
And be very sensible about it, and just use as much common sense as we can all possibly 80% of us can agree on.
Right.
And if we can get an 80% vote on something,
great.
Where, you can't buy an AR unless, you go through a class.
Right.
And maybe even a psych eval.
Right.
And
this is all, like, everyone talks about Democrats taking away guns. And to go to your point, like, who said that? Nobody said that.
There's just a lot of influence in the media of like people like that go, "Oh, we don't, we need to ban some of these." There are those extremists out there that get a lot of attention. Sure,
but we can go back to even like what Obama said. He's like, "No way has anyone ever talked about taking away your guns." And
Obama was the best salesman of weapons in history. He sold more guns,
right?
And
that's
than anyone.
That's not a problem. He's saying, like, we don't want to take away your guns, but he's like, you do need a license to drive a car, right? You need a license a CDL to drive a big truck. It's a big thing that you don't quite understand. All we're saying is licensing and checks. Like, that's all we're saying.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and like I agree
with that.
Yeah.
I own guns.
Mm-hmm. I would love it if somebody did a mental health check on me every time I went to buy a gun. I'd like to know where I'm at.
Yeah,
I'd like a free mental health check.
But then here's the thing: what if you're completely fine, but they deny you? How would you feel about that?
Okay, and let's swing this back around to the transgender rights. What if you're completely fine and they tell you you're not?
What do you mean?
What if they did a mental health evaluation on somebody trying to do a sex change procedure?
Well, I don't think that. I think it's just once you're an adult, you can do what you want.
Right. And again, I'm trying to compare an apple to an orange, I guess. So,
maybe.
Yeah. What if, and that's a very good question, because that's something I've thought of too, right? Like, what would happen to somebody trying to buy a gun and who cannot? Because one way or another, like, they're
going to get a gun.
People are going to get what they want.
There are more guns in this country than there are human bodies.
Mm-hmm. So, and again, since we're kind of...
So that's also like, do you put a lot of restrictions on guns? Because the people that will follow the rules probably will have less guns than the people that won't follow the rules.
Sure.
And it's like, I feel like we're too late.
Sure. and like, again, going back to the transgender thing, like, what if they ban trans or transgender at a kid and people start going to underground procedures and not sanctioned events where they can get this stuff done.
And then they should be arrested.
Okay, that's fair. Then they should be arrested on the gun front too.
Okay, yes, I agree.
Yeah,
If you're buying a gun illegally,
if you're going
don't
to be
qualify,
breaking the law is in place. You should be.
there should be consequences.
Yes, fully agree.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
So we're agreeing on things.
Yeah, exactly.
80% of stuff.
No, but really, we can spin this politically back and forth all we want. We're just trying to show that there are two different sides to what's happening in the nation, but there is a big pool of common ground.
Yes.
Right? And really what we want to focus on in this episode, too, I'd love to know any thoughts you have on everything, first of all, before we go forward. But then I'd like to transition to how this is going to affect real estate and business. And
we will get into that.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was raised a Democrat, like you,
Yep.
I think.
I was not raised a Democrat.
You weren't? Okay.
No, sir.
Your parents, no?
So my parents don't vote, but
Okay.
if they did, it would be Republican.
Okay.
So
you grew up in a more conservative household.
Yeah. And
I grew up in a very liberal household, but my parents were both Democrats.
Right.
I think my dad eventually switched.
Yeah. It's probably why your mom loves me more.
Maybe. And I was just raised to believe that the Democrats were the good guys, and they didn't want war. And that was a big thing. So I guess, and then I kind of grew up in the Bush era, as a teenager, and just realized, Bush, Dick Cheney, they're very pro-war.
Yeah.
That's not a good thing. And I was just trying to, and I didn't know much about anything at that age, other than Democrats good, Republicans, they like war bad. And
war
then,
good, war bad, vote blue, vote red.
And then by the time I was able to vote for the first time, I missed my first. I was 17 when I could have voted for John Kerry.
Okay.
So I was a little shy of that. And then when I was able to vote a few years later, voted for Obama. And then during that presidency, I started really just getting, into the red pill stuff, Alex Jones, all the conspiracies out there, 9/11,
right,
the moon theories, all these theories that you just get sucked into. And I think there's a legitimate reasons on. I think a lot of them are legitimate, a lot of them aren't.
Yeah.
Like everything. And I was a very tinfoil hat for several years and just went independent. For the most part, I just, screw the system. These are all bad people. And that's where I went. Like, all politics bad. All of them. Like, they're all in it to game the system.
Well, politics equals power. And if you're in a position of power, you're in a position of influence. And if you're in a position of influence, you actually get more power. So it actually feeds itself once you get there.
Yep.
It's a very weird system. Most things, right?
Yep.
So.
And then, over time, Alex Jones started promoting Trump, which was unique because he was always against every politician.
Right.
I'm like, well, if Alex Jones thinks this guy's cool, let's hear him out. And every time I heard Donald Trump speak, I would just cringe. And I'm just like, I kind of understand where he's coming from, but I just hate the way he says everything.
Right.
Like, I hate the way he talks.
Yeah.
It's just comes off as such a buffoon. Over time, I've gotten used to it.
Yeah. Sam hates when I do Trump impressions.
Yeah. He just
Let me tell you about America. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah. And then I voted for him. And I'm glad I did. I thought the country ran much better than it has in a very long time. There were things that happened, like, you put in judges that reversed Roe v. Wade. Probably, maybe I don't agree with that, but there's nothing you can do about it at this point.
Yep.
So that was probably one thing that he probably screwed.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that probably listen to this like that was a good thing.
Yeah,
and maybe it is. Maybe it is good to have states decide what happens with abortion.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm not. It doesn't affect me like it does a woman, so I don't really have a huge opinion about it.
Right.
I think you shouldn't kill babies like at a certain point. And I believe that they are babies at a certain point in the womb. Sure. So there should be some restrictions at some point that most people agree.
Sure.
Is reasonable.
I think, yes. But if we're talking about like abortion rights, I think from my understanding, what the left is more worried about is rape cases and like
sure,
accidental. Like, what if an unfit mother with maybe psychiatric problems gets pregnant, right? Like, I don't know.
I
I'm not a
believe
woman.
I believe in exceptions.
Sure, I believe in acceptance, and
Sure.
that's fine. Like, again, we're not women.
This is coming from somebody who, and I'm going to admit it on air. I paid for an abortion once when I was 18.
Yeah.
And my mom took me down with my girlfriend. We paid for it. Their parents never knew.
Yeah.
And because it was just ingrained in me that this is totally fine.
Yeah.
After it happened, we felt horrible about
Sure,
it.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
going through that experience and getting to see what actually happened in the process, it was like, ugh, made me want to throw up. Like, we actually killed
Yeah.
a baby.
Yeah.
And she had to live with it. I had to live with it. And it's a very taboo topic.
It is. It really is.
So maybe, going through that and going to experience just how nonchalant most people are about the topic, and then getting to go through it, it's just didn't really set right with me. And I'm not a huge, religious person.
Sure.
But we did what we did
Right.
out of our best self-interest because we weren't ready to be parents.
Right. And that's a decision people, one way or another, will have to live with.
Yeah.
But they should have that
I would never do that
choice.
again.
Right.
But it's not up to me.
It's not up to you, exactly. It's not up to me either. Like, as a white male, I have zero say in what happens with that.
Mm-hmm. But I'm the one that was unprotected and did those things at a very young age because I was stupid, But anyway, yeah. And then this last election, 2020, I don't even think I voted. No, I did. I voted independent again. And the reason why is because there was so much the Russia thing.
Yeah.
Was really pushed down our throat, and I believed it. I'm like, this guy was in cahoots with Russia. It turned out to be a hoax.
Yeah.
A lot of things turned out to be a hoax. So I felt betrayed a little bit by the mass media that they spent 4 years just making up shit, where a lot of it was untrue. Some of it was true.
Sure.
Most of it was not.
It's basically it's a foundation
so
of
persuaded.
lies, right?
So when you say, was the election rigged? Maybe in other ways, that 2020 election where there was so much misinformation that people voted differently, and maybe there's a lot of screwed up stuff with the ballots. Who knows?
Yeah, that happens on every election, right? Like, if we're talking about misinformation and legitimate results that came in skewed, I think we're talking about two different things,
Right.
right? Like, I mean, like that's what they do. They try to get you to like feel so bad for the other, like hate the other party so much that they gain your trust and confidence.
Yeah.
That's their plan, basically.
But here's something I learned over the last few years that that kind of went back to like my childhood hate for Bush was and the Dick Cheney machine and the war machine. I realized that Trump was like the first president in history in a long time to not have any new wars started, and he did reign a lot of peace throughout the world in ways that were unconventional. But he did, he avoided tons and tons of wars. And then the next administration comes in, wars start around the world, and believe it or not, Dick Cheney endorses Kamala Harris.
Okay.
And that was it for me.
Yeah.
The man everybody on the blue claims is the devil is now in your back pocket because he knows if Trump gets back in, he wants peace. And Dick Cheney and his daughter, like, they are profiteers of war. Like, they have companies that make money when we have war. So it's all about incentive with me.
Sure.
Where's the incentive at? When it came to the people that started coming around Trump, like I said, I'm not like a huge fan of that man, just because I think he speaks weird. But it seems like he has good intentions in general. And then the people that started surrounding, like Elon Musk, I think he's going to do a fantastic job if he really actually is going to.
Oh yeah, is he going to be in Trump's cabinet?
Yeah, so he's going to be in charge of the government efficiency program, where they call it like the Department of Government Efficiency,
Sure.
Doge, as a joke. But but he's like the best in the world at efficiency,
Sure.
and cutting cost. He went into Twitter and cut 80% of the cost out and made it better.
Yeah.
So he's going to be kind of in charge of seeing how we can make the government more efficient, because right now it's on track for bankruptcy.
Sure.
And there's so many regulations that could be wind down quite a bit.
Right.
Like there are more government agencies than years that we've been a country.
Yeah.
There's over 450 something
Now we've got
government
451 with Doge.
exactly. So he's a master at creating efficiency and seeing where there's too much and pushing the limits, and maybe even taking. And he's done this in his companies too, where he'll take away things, realize that we probably needed it, and put it right back.
Yeah.
So he's not afraid to do that.
Yeah.
Then you've got RFK, who's going to fix our food problem, because we have this massive problem with our food system that many other countries in the world ban certain toxins to be in our food, and he's going to be in charge of making sure that we have clean food, like the rest of like Europe and stuff, and like get away from these big toxins that are allowed into our food.
Sure.
Because of government corruption, and it's just easy and cheap and
So I guess on that,
giving us cancer.
On that level, since we're talking about efficiencies in food and everything, this is all an area that I don't know a lot about. So I'm open to interpretation, and I understand this is all being like what's being fed to us, of course. If we're talking about how Trump is going to be fixing efficiencies, but then he's going to be making food more expensive by taking out the cheap additives. How is that going to help the average American get a cheaper meal?
They're going to take out toxin, like the
yellow
color, the yellow food coloring that gives you cancer long term.
Sure.
Like those kind of issues.
Like you're saying, putting in new, better ingredients to food. Is that what you said as well?
Right. So how he's going to help the economy the most is by drilling oil here, lots of it, creating fracking, being more energy independent here, and creating lots of energy that will have a trickle down effect and should make everything a little less expensive.
Sure,
that's again, the hope.
Because I'll believe it when I see it. Right.
Okay,
and that I think that's a fair assumption, because everyone's up in
but what
about gas prices? Let me finish real
But
quick.
this is how you fix it.
Right.
This is how you fix things.
Okay.
The current administration had no intentions and no plan to fix anything other than to keep raising the debt.
Sure.
Other than to just keep giving handouts.
Okay.
They're dependent on foreign oil.
Sure.
Those kind of things. But sorry, continue.
No, yeah. So anyway, just this is where it's convoluted on what a president actually does. When Biden was president, I guess he still is. You see all the gas stations at $4 a gallon. Everyone was claiming that the government did this. I did this is what you saw stickers on it. And I'm like, I don't think he did that, or he did it unintentionally. Right. And now gas is at less than $3 a gallon. And people are still up in arms about it. Like, it's went down over 25%, and there's still outrage.
Right. They did that for election purposes.
Okay. Well, nonetheless, what I'm trying to say is, like, I like to think of all this stuff as like levers on a stereo. You got your treble, your bass, your volume, all this stuff, right? You have to find a quality and like a balance somewhere for this system to work, right? So either a gas prices are high, but it's also making X low, or maybe this is high and it's making this high too, but there's an equilibrium somewhere in there, and it's like every cause has an effect with this.
Sure.
So, but I don't see that, right? Because I'm just a normal peon in the world.
Right.
But I'm sure, like, if they're trying to pay off the deficit, or if they're trying to fund whatever they need to be funding, maybe that's why gas is 30 cents cheaper. But I don't know. Again, I don't see the back end of that. Right. I just know, like, there's a cause and effect for every reasoning. Not just gas, not just Trump, but, like, there's a cause and an effect.
Yeah.
A problem and a solution.
Yep.
Or at least a tried one.
Right. It just seems like, to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like the new administration that's coming in has the people's best interest at mind, and it may slap at first, but it's going to help. It will help keep us in business long term. And the way our current administration was going, it really was. It was making things worse and worse and worse. You can't just keep printing money.
Right.
You can't keep just giving handouts. You can't just keep getting into wars.
Right.
You can't just keep feeding us cancerous food.
Right.
Because it's cheap.
I agree with you there.
We've got to get healthier. We've got to stop all the wars. and we've got to do something about this insane deficit
Right.
that the government's on, where our interest payments are now more than the defense budget.
Right.
As of the last, in the last few months.
Right.
What has surpassed the interest payments on our deficit surpassed the defense budget.
Right.
Got to do some fixing there.
And
this administration has those big things as priorities, and I'm okay with a clown as a president if they're going to focus on things that actually matter.
Sure. And again, like, I would love to see that. I would love to see everything you're talking about be fixed in a way that makes sense for the 80% of American populace, right? And I think with politics, it's weird too, because if you've noticed the trends of politics lately, it goes, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, Republican. And when you do this, the pendulum just kind of swings bigger and bigger every single time.
Sure. Yeah.
I could honestly say, like, in 2008, when, like, it was Obama versus Bush, right? Or maybe that was 2000.
That was Obama versus McCain, I think.
McCain, yeah. That felt like a pretty little rift. Like, it didn't feel like there was a lot of hatred between the two of them. Also, we were young and naive, so it's very hard to tell.
Oh, I think there was still plenty of hatred.
Sure.
On both sides. There's plenty of people up in arms.
There was an actual debate.
But Obama was a fresh, I think people were getting sick of the wars. People were getting sick of, the way that all this stuff, and it was a fresh, like, okay, we're going to change.
Yeah.
He was running on change.
Yeah.
And then it didn't happen. More wars.
Yeah.
More debt.
But also, like, if you go back to a time when America was most prosperous, and this is, I think we can fact check this if it's not right, like, the best times America was doing well was at times of war. But when we were at war with a different country, not at war with ourselves. Because we have a common enemy to fight out here. So there's not a lot of riffing about policy. It's about how do we fix the solution out here.
When was this?
I could be wrong. I thought I read something about World War I and World War II.
Those were not good times.
Were you alive?
No, but I heard plenty of stories that it sucked.
Yeah.
Plenty of... when wars were over, that's when we had a prosperous time. When World War II was done and they came back and it was time to build and not be in war, that's when that was my recollection. That's what I remember hearing was, that's when you had the baby boomers.
Yeah. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I apologize for saying a time after war. Time after war is when we're most prosperous. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Like, we're not exactly prospering during a military conflict, but after it's resolved, we sure are.
Yeah, we got to get back to work.
Right,
we got a lot of stuff to fix.
Right, but sometimes...
And also those countries we bombed the shit out of, let's help fix them too.
Right.
Let's rebuild.
And that's what's so weird about politics.
Baby.
There's so there's so many, like, foreign influences in this stuff too, right?
Sure.
I mean, take a look at...
It's complicated. The world is complicated.
Thank you for saying that. It is very complicated. Like, our deficit right now is like 33 trillion, right?
It's a lot more than that if you figure in unfunded liabilities.
Yeah, if you include the math.
It's knocking on the door of 200 trillion when you figure all the long-term unfunded liabilities.
And who's funding this deficit? It's mostly foreign countries, right? So at times, like, who's paying for that deficit?
Our kids.
Who's taking out the loan on this money?
The taxpayers are paying this.
The taxpayers are paying this.
Yeah.
They're not doing a very good job.
Right. And we're not doing a very good job collecting because we're running a deficit.
Right.
So the idea is to...
But we do have foreign notes out. That they do help fund our economy.
Stop giving money to other countries.
Sure.
Start collecting money from other countries that are bringing products here and driving up taking away pretty much all our manufacturing opportunities here locally because we can get it done cheaper elsewhere, and then they bring in and pretty much dominate our market with foreign products.
Yep.
So the idea is to charge them tariffs, and that's a complicated subject.
Right.
But it should help with our debt situation a little bit instead of just giving the rest of the world money that we don't have.
Right.
Like right now, I kind of see it as like some parents that just went crazy.
Sure.
Some parents that are balls deep in debt and they're just grabbing any credit card they can and just spending and not working.
Right.
And not going to work, not producing anything and just spending like crazy.
Yeah.
It's like your parents are, they don't have a job and they're $200,000 in debt, and then they keep taking money from your little brother who's working at Walmart.
Yeah. I was. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then the oldest son is rich as shit. He doesn't have to pay because he helps out with giving the little brother a job.
Right. I know this.
If you bring it down to a family level, like there's some fixing to do fundamentally, so that we don't just lose everything we have.
Right. And I was thinking about this the other day, and in no way do I endorse this idea, but I thought it was a funny idea. I'm like, what if we just gave the keys to somebody else?
Another country? Yeah. Like here, Canada.
Yeah. We're clearly not capable of making good decisions on our own.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No. Well, hold on.
Well, yes and no.
Wait. Before, okay. Let me. I was just in Mexico.
Okay.
And we spent the majority of the time with this other family from Canada that also had a couple little kids there. And this guy was a very successful real estate investor, owned a restaurant, owned this moving company with 14 or 70 different trucks.
Why don't we have him on the podcast?
Probably could. Yeah. And he said that Canada is very reliant on what the U.S. does.
Yep.
Like that, everybody's watching this election.
Yep.
A lot of people there are hoping that Trump wins.
Yeah.
The people that new business, and he said that the rest of the world is very dependent on America doing well.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to hear. I don't think I've ever really heard that from.
We're a world power.
Somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. So people
So we do. So I don't think we can just give the keys over to anybody.
And I know that's the joke. I'm completely joking. But I was like, what if we just gave it to some unaffiliated country? Because again,
Chile,
with us going Democrat Republican, Democrat Republican, Democrat Republican, we're not making much traction. We spend the 4 years trying to undo the policies of the last 4 years.
Yeah, but I think it's nice to have some stoppage. You don't want one side to have too much power.
Right. But now the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Right. So that is a lot of power for someone. But that's,
and the majority of the country said that's what they want.
Right. Exactly. And
so
we'll see
we're
how that ends up working out.
And I believe that's a democracy.
It is 100%. I'm not mad at how it is.
So it's interesting how the blue claims that this will be the end of democracy if he wins, when it was the democracy that voted him in to help fix our fundamental issues that we have.
And I will say this, anyone who is complaining about politics and didn't vote, first of all, I don't think you get an opinion.
Oh, you can have an opinion.
You can have an opinion?
Jeremy says no, I say yes.
Agree to disagree. Anyway, if you're going to be, I think if you want to see policy change, you have to actually be the one actually putting it into place. And to do that, you need to be voting in more than just your presidential elections.
Yep.
Because all of this stuff gets funneled down on the state city legislation, right?
Right.
So if you care about politics and what you want that much, you need to be showing up to your town hall meetings. You need to be voting for your city governors or city mayors, state governors.
Yeah.
You need to be showing up to those things too. And that's me. Yeah. I don't want to be that person, but I think anyone who wants to see incredible change needs to rally and do it in a peaceful manner.
Yep.
And really fight for what you believe in, but not fight by lighting things on fire or storming the Capitol or rioting stores in Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. There's better ways to do this, and you vote with your words in your mouth.
Yep. So one more reason, and then we can move on to real estate.
Sure. Yeah.
That I felt like it was imperative to not vote for Kamala is because in her tax plan she is trying to implement taxing on unrealized gains.
Okay.
And
I heard about that, yes.
And that is absolutely fucking insane. It would be insane for it would be such a bad thing for everyone. Imagine being taxed every year on the equity in your house and your stock portfolio and all these things that, if you don't even sell your stocks.
Right.
You don't sell your house. You don't sell your rental properties. But every year you have to be taxed on your net worth.
Right.
And what it is that year. If your house doubles in value and then they want to tax you on that, that is insane. People would have to sell all their shit just to pay their taxes. Right. And it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It just didn't make any sense.
Now with that, I personally have never seen where she said that. Now, if she did, fair, believe it. But now
it was in her. It was in her policy.
Okay, now what happens with this, Nick? So you got your president at the top, right? Then you got House and Senate down here, right? So
right.
in order for a president to get this stuff through, she has to get approval through the House and Senate.
And what if it was approved?
What if? It wouldn't be approved though, because the House is like somebody is going to stop something in that. I would have to say somebody would put a halt to something like that. I can't say what, but like, I mean, Trump's probably proposed some ridiculous shit too that's gotten stopped along the way.
Maybe.
I think you have to have bold ideas if you're going to be a president, one way or another. Like, what we're doing isn't working. Maybe they're just trying to figure out a way to make it work. And again, I definitely don't agree with that policy.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
But like there's more. There may be more.
And there's a lot. But this is the thing that sucks is there's so many people, probably half the country, that didn't understand what that meant.
And when you have misunderstanding, what do you have?
People voting with ignorance.
You have fear. If you don't understand something, again, it's going to swing that pendulum the other way.
Right.
And I think that was part of the problem, the lack of clarity. And with this, like, even with Kamala, like, it was so weird having Biden just kind of be like, see you later. And
he didn't seem too happy.
Right. I think he's very old and senile and going through some personal mental, probably, like, what's it called?
Dementia.
Dementia, yeah.
Yeah.
I
think that was pretty clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people
and
understand
I
that.
think that's why he stood down, right? And I get it, but like,
I don't think he wanted to stand down. I think he was forced down.
Yeah. And which is so weird, because if he was forced down, and then Kamala was forced up, and it brought such outrage to the Republican Party, because you were right. We talked about this before the show. That's not democracy being voted in.
Yeah.
Right.
You'd want to vote in your elected officials to be elected.
Right. But
there's a process.
There is a process
that was totally skipped.
But we were 2 months away from an election. Right. And I think they needed just a face that people knew.
Sure.
And I could be wrong, right? I have no idea how that stuff works.
Yeah, and I don't know the exact process either. I just know that there's a process to be elected.
Right.
Nominated to be elected, and that process was skipped.
And even
like people have to vote on it.
And even when you vote for your
and there was nobody voting.
You vote for your electoral.
Here you go.
Vote,
joy,
right?
joy, joy.
I will say, like, I mean, like, so one more thing. We're 45 minutes in, and we haven't even talked about the implications of real estate.
It's because we don't know what's going to happen. No, I'm just kidding.
There's your hot take, everyone. No, I will say, like, from my own personal life, like, the last 4 years, I have personally prospered faster and harder than I've ever done.
That's good. Yes. You bring up such a good point.
Mm-hmm.
And I did want to eventually get to this, but you brought it up first. It doesn't matter who's president.
It does not matter. And I will fully...
When you're an investor in real estate. Mm-hmm. As long as you know what to do,
right,
you can make money.
Yes.
If Kamala won and the economy continued to just go into the trash, not a bad thing for us.
We would still figure out a way. Like...
we would pick up deals, baby.
Yeah.
And now what's likely going to happen is that we might have a strong economy.
Mm-hmm.
Not such a great thing for investors, but we'll figure it out.
Right.
We can flip homes. We can build homes. We just have to change our strategy a little bit. It doesn't matter who's in office. If you're a real estate investor, you just got to be able to weave in and out of opportunities as they come.
Yeah, yeah. You got to be able to take a couple on the chin so you can throw a haymaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but like, and with a strong economy, obviously what you're saying is like, you know, house prices are already pretty damn strong.
Yeah.
I think the market is overly strong right now because you have a lot of sitting inventory. I mean, we're more of a like
it's
stable
pretty
market.
normal.
We've got a stable normal market is what you'd call it, right? But we
need income to go up.
Right.
We need incomes to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's going to help is energy prices coming down.
Okay.
The job market growing, more manufacturing in this country, build some more infrastructure into this country to build more higher paying jobs.
Sure.
And I think higher paying jobs is going to help.
I would agree.
Because I don't think relying on prices to come down is going to be, I think that's going to be harder than creating jobs that pay more.
I agree with you. Yeah.
And I think that this administration is going to be a little bit more wind at your back.
Sure.
than the last administration.
Right.
And that's why I'm optimistic, because I think it's going to be better for most people, not just me.
Right. And I think, here's the thing, like, I don't think most people are like you.
Right. I know that.
Yeah. I'm fully confident that, like, 99% of people have W-2 jobs. They work for a corporation. They don't own a business, right? You do all these things. You invest in real estate. So, like, you're going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And we're talking about higher paying jobs. Will these higher paying jobs hopefully translate? Is it going to, because you're talking about the food stuff too, like, is food going to go down? Is gas going to go down? Do you think that's really going to happen?
I'm not as concerned with prices going down as I am people making more money.
Okay.
I think there's an abundance of money out there.
There is.
And I think it's time for people to make more and for us to live a better lifestyle altogether.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important. And I think it's okay if things cost more.
Sure.
As long as you can make more, because there's so much money out there to go around.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that. Not just making some weird political statement here. I feel like people could be paid more.
Sure.
A lot more, as long as we produce here.
Right.
As long as we produce things and we're all productive. I think we can live a much better lifestyle.
And do you think with making more money, is that going to impact the deficit? Is that going to affect our national debts?
I think that's really complicated, and it has to do with how efficient we are.
Sure.
And I think having somebody like Elon Musk helping cut all the unnecessary fat and regulations,
Yeah.
putting stuff back in if it doesn't work,
Right.
just messing with that, because he makes a good analogy. It's like, if you're trying to get anything done in this country, when it comes to regulations involved, it's like playing football and there's like more refs on the field than football players,
Right,
and you're
right,
always
right.
going to hit a ref every time you're trying to throw a ball
Right.
or go forward.
And that would be
there's
that way with both administrations, by the way. So, like, again, like what you're talking about with Kamala and the unrealized tax gains, like there's refs all over the field that are going to slap the shit out of that. Because now you're messing with people's dollar, and people don't
Right.
like that.
But here's the thing: with the current administration, they didn't have any new plans to make the economy better,
Okay.
and that's what most people voted for the other day.
Sure.
And I feel like, in order for people to have a better lifestyle, they need to just make more money and not focus on things being cheaper,
Right.
because I think there's more opportunity out there and a hell of a lot of cash for people to just make more cash. Yes, prices will always go up.
Right.
People have to get used to that. People have to accept that,
Right.
that things are going to always be more expensive. So you should just focus on making more income.
Right. And if that's the case, though, but then we start getting into like inflation and how that actually works. Because if you're inflating the dollar and making things more expensive, everything's going to go up around it.
Yeah,
Right?
but you can
So
try to control it.
You can try to control it, but hear me out.
And that's what they try to do. Try to control it to 2%.
Right. So, but again, just hear me out, right? So, say you make a 2%. They're trying to control inflation to 2%. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and that's what they did. They did pretty well at the from 2017 to 2020.
2019, maybe. 20. Yeah. As soon as COVID hit, that was a different ballgame.
Yeah, COVID put it.
Yeah.
That screwed everything up.
Yes.
But they had inflation under wraps, and we had a lot of growth,
Okay.
and that's why people prospered.
Right.
The inflation came later, and some of it was obviously because we printed another third of the money supply. But all those COVID didn't have to happen the way it did.
Right.
And if it happens again, I think it will be dealt with differently and more efficiently.
I fully agree with you there. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, yes, if you make more money, like the cost of insurance is going to go up, gas, groceries, all these things are going to go up. So are people...
But not always.
Not always, but that's what happens. Like, if you're trying to make better, higher paying jobs, the people who are providing jobs are going to raise their rates too.
Yeah.
And we'll just have to see what happens
it has to,
right?
like, you have to be making more money than... the idea is to increase wages more than inflation.
Sure.
And I feel like we can do it.
It sounds so simple in theory, and I would love to see it play out exactly how you're talking about.
Me too.
Right? Like, and that's all I can hope for. Like, whoever is going to be running the current administration, I hope they just do a damn good job.
Yeah. But if they didn't send $200 billion to Ukraine, if that war never started, I think our lives would be a little different. Like, what if they took that $200 billion and just gave it to us? Give it to us instead, or not just give it to us, but invested it in the country.
I'm going to stop you
energy
because that's a very
invest in
democratic
energy.
thing to say. You know, they just gave it to us,
and that's our. That came out wrong.
I know exactly.
Use it for us. Like invest in our. Like build something in this country that will make energy cheaper. That will help everything. I know it is so cheap to drive around in my Tesla.
Sure.
That it allows me to go further than most people for way less money.
Right.
And I feel like a fundamental letter, you can do that in this country by investing the money here.
Sure.
And starting, and instead of trying to borrow from everybody else in the country, in the world.
Sure. But again, like I'm not behind the curtain on this, so I have no idea why we gave all that money to Ukraine. But has Ukraine ever given anything to us?
I don't know.
Since we are a world power, we're basically daddy to the whole world, right?
We don't have to be.
We don't have to be. But also, like, is it?
But the point, what Trump wants is for people to stop dying in war.
Sure.
And
I fully agree with that too.
He wants to help stop that war.
Right.
Bring the leaders to the table and be like, okay, let's figure something out here. Obviously, Putin, you want some of this country. The other guy, hey, can you give up at least this,
right?
So people can stop dying.
That's. I don't think he's as peaceful as that, but I could be wrong. From a guy who lost an election and caused a riot at the White House.
What about the Abraham Accords?
I don't know anything about that.
Okay, I would look into it a little bit more.
Yeah, and again, like we're having a civil conversation. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, like, I would love to see peace, but at what cost?
I think he's a lot more peaceful than most people give him credit for.
Cool. And I really hope you're right.
And he has a track record now.
Yeah.
Of that. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a lot of track records.
Sure.
That's that. But anyway, like
again, could there be somebody else?
I don't know.
That maybe could be a little bit more statesman, be better with his words,
right?
Not have so much baggage, not be almost 80 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
but we don't have that.
Biden too, right? Like I'm like the dude's like 90.
But he's surrounded himself with superstars that could become,
right?
Like it's gonna sound weird. I really like JD Vance.
Okay.
I think he's a great guy. I've listened to a lot, hours and hours and hours of him talking on podcasts, and it seems like he picked a really good VP.
Cool.
Way less baggage with that guy.
Yeah.
Just a common sense, normal person. Okay. And Trump won't be president forever.
I know that.
And I feel like there will be better people.
And again, I'm not crying about anyone being in presidency. We're just having a discussion about it, right?
Sure.
And again, like I really hope for the country's sake that like he finds a way to overcome his shortcomings, right? With who he was and how he's kind of handled business and himself.
Yeah.
I hope he finds a way to rise above that. And I hope he really leads the country to a state of prosperity.
Me too.
That's what I hope. Like
that's what everybody should hope for.
Yeah.
I think people should stop like just crying in the streets and feel like all your rights are going to be taken away. It's not true. I feel like we all just need to do better as a country, get to work.
On that side, like, yeah, we shouldn't be crying in the streets, but also we shouldn't be like making fun of the people who lost the election.
No, I don't think so at all.
Everyone, it's a big middle finger to anyone who voted differently than you right now. And everyone's like, ha ha, we won, or fuck you, you won. It's like, okay, it happened.
Yeah.
How do we proceed? I think the conversation needs to be shifted a little bit. And it will with time, of course.
It will rapidly.
It will rapidly, yes. Just it's hard to see the hatred coming from both sides. And that's what makes me like want to not even be involved in politics. I'm like, y'all just like don't like each other so much that you can't find any common ground. And there's common ground on both sides. Like you said, there's that 80% sphere where most people lie. Mm-hmm. And I hope, again, going forward, that we just we find a way to just prosper as a nation. Not just for investors, but for the common folk.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's this going to affect real estate?
I think we just answered that by saying, prices, we're hoping for better wages. We're hoping for better efficiencies.
Yep.
With that stuff, like you said, real estate prices, they may stay solid for a while. they may get higher. Things tend real estate. If you look at it on a scale anyway, it tends to project up, whether your president got elected or not.
Yeah, I feel like if you were to look at a scale of housing costs, we are a little bit higher than we should be.
Sure.
So there might be room for a little bit more price decreases, but probably not by much. It probably won't happen. I think we've printed too much money to where we just have a new bar of what things cost.
Yeah.
So I think that has to come into effect. What I mean by that, when they printed, after COVID, they printed at the
but that worked out in our benefit.
Like insane. For some, not everybody.
Not everybody. Right.
I mean, but I feel like prices aren't going to go down to where we kind of projected they would a few years ago. Be at this level at this. I think everything's going to kind of stay where it is, and maybe just continue to go up. So people just need to focus on making more money.
Right. And so, can I ask I know we're getting close to the hour. I don't know how this all works. Can you give me the 30, 40-second rundown on interest rates?
Yeah, sure.
Right? So the Fed is the one who controls the interest rates, right? Does it make sense? Because where does this money go that has high interest rates? Where does that extra money go? Does it go into the pockets of the housing administration? Or does it actually go back into the government? Because if it goes into the government and they plan on paying down deficits, maybe higher interest rates are a good deal. Or a good deal for the country.
Do you mean the federal funds rate, like what they're currently paying?
Yeah, like when you see the 6% interest rates, like where does that money go? It goes to banks, obviously.
Okay, hold on. Now, are you talking about when you invest your money in like a money market?
No, I'm talking about. I apologize. I talk about buying real estate, like interest rates on a house.
Yeah,
the Fed sets that rate.
No. The Fed, so you've got the consumer. So it's usually like they follow the 10-year Treasury.
Yeah. The CPI, right? The Consumer Price Index.
So what there's a consumer mortgage market out there that will. Is it safer to just put their money with the government because they're paying this much, or should we mark it up? And offer, they're trying to be. There's usually a 2% or so margin between what the 10-year Treasury bond is. And sorry, I'd have to refresh my memory on this all. But it's not necessarily like the government. Well, the Federal Reserve, they do mess with the rates, and a lot of it has to do with. It has to do with inflation. Like, how are we with inflation? Is it under control?
Yeah.
How are the job markets? If the job market's bad, typically they lower rates. If the job market looks fantastic, typically they heighten rates.
Right.
Rates were kind of manipulated a few years ago and kept low for a long time until about 2022 to try to deal with all the bad stuff.
Right.
And now that they're done with that, I don't think we'll see interest rates, at 0% anymore.
No. Yeah.
Where a mortgage market is going to offer 2%, 3% rates, because they're basically borrowing. They're still making that 2% spread or whatever.
Right.
So we may see, right, according to the lender I talked to yesterday, he's like, rates are going to go down for sure.
Right.
I asked why, and he didn't really tell me. He just said that's what he was told, like rates are going down.
My dad said.
So there's going to be pressure, but the president doesn't control the interest rates.
Thank you. I wanted to hear that from you.
The Fed chairman controls the interest rates because they're trying to control the economy. Now, they have pressure from the government, from the president. They could be scrutinized.
Right.
But they're typically trying to fight two things at the same time: inflation and unemployment.
Yep.
And they're trying to keep those in line.
Again,
one gets out of
levels that you have to.
And they're
keep in
constantly
check.
going back and forth based off inflation numbers and unemployment.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep unemployment down, but not too low.
Right.
If unemployment is too low, then they.
That sounds like a job that I would seriously hate.
Yeah.
Like,
and
being in control of that sounds awful.
And it's almost an impossible job. I mean, there's jokes. There's a lot of high end jokes about being the Fed chair and like how impossible it is to. You can't really fix what they started a decade ago with quantitative easing, and just it's a machine. They're doing the best they can. What they really need is more government efficiency by a lot, like 80%. Right. They need to cut a lot, and they need to stop giving money away.
Yeah.
And we need to produce more here. So there's these huge fundamental changes that will probably sting at first, but be better long term for the country.
Sure. And again, like I hope these are implemented in a way that makes sense for everyone. And I, not only that, like I hope no matter who's in office after Trump, I hope if they're doing something good with this, something really spectacular, I hope the next administration adopts it too. Because
Sure.
And again, like with this pendulum swinging, I think people on both sides are just like, remove all policies that the last guy had in the
I know, and then it's like nothing gets done.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they implement things, they take them away. They implement things, they take them away. Shut down the government.
Yeah. It's like
typically nothing gets done, but I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
But also I'm not going to rely on the market to dictate what my income is going to be.
right, exactly.
I feel like I'm still going to be in complete control no matter who's president.
Yes.
But I can, if Elon Musk tells me that this is better, I'm going to believe the smartest man on the planet.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah.
And again, like time's going to tell.
Yeah.
And I think that's.
I don't think
you're like smart.
Smart. And I think he's definitely a pro-humanitarian.
Sure.
Like he's pro-human.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yeah, he is.
There's questions on the hysteric blue side thinking that he's the devil now.
Right.
But he
thought
is
that for a long time
pro-human.
about him.
He's very pro-human.
Yeah.
He's not nice about it. He could be a little autistic. But he wants what's best for humans more than anybody in history.
Yeah.
And he happens to be the smartest guy that anyone can think of.
Yeah.
He's a genius. And he just happens to be the richest man in the world too.
Is he the richest man in the world?
Yes.
I had no idea. I literally had no idea.
Oh, you didn't know?
No. I thought the guy who created SpongeBob was like the richest man.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
He's completely a billionaire from my understanding, and I don't know. Richest in the world is so subjective.
It's been Elon Musk for a few years.
Has it?
Yeah.
I don't Google richest man in the world very often.
People just say it.
Yeah. Again, but like with we're running over time, so we'll
That's
kind of
okay.
try to wrap this up here soon. But I think the left side definitely thinks Elon Musk is the devil, and that's where I disagree with that sentiment for sure.
Yeah. He was totally on their side just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, not even that. Just like what he's done, and everyone complains about the fact that he doesn't use his billions to solve world hunger, and
he's done more for humanity than any person on the planet.
And I wanted to say that's where I was getting. I'm like
again and
the
again
amount
and again.
that he donates on a regular basis to help mankind.
He's paid more in taxes than any human in the U.S. history.
Yep.
He paid like 1 year. I think he paid $12 billion.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to. He just did it because Elizabeth Warren made fun of him.
Yeah.
And he's like,
okay,
I'll tell you, I'll show you. Yeah. I'll pay more taxes than anyone in history, and he did it. Yeah. I mean, the guy he's unlike anybody out there, and I don't claim I'm not smarter than him.
Thank you for saying that. I would have called you out so fast if you said I'm smarter than Elon.
So I don't want. So if he says something, I'm just going to believe it. For the most part,
sure. Take everything with a grain of salt. But yeah, there's a.
Because I feel like he's proven that he's a unique specimen that wants the best for humanity,
right? And
he's a smart guy, and I don't want to pretend that I'm smarter than him,
right?
And I'm just going to do what he says.
Sure.
And I'm making it up my mind.
I would urge you to kind of like obviously take that sentiment with a grain of salt, of course. Like when you say the smartest man alive, anything he says, you'll believe. Sure. But then that's how power gets skewed at the same time.
Sure. And maybe I'm exaggerating that a little bit, but that's the point I want to get across is that I'm not smarter than the smartest guy that a lot of people claim he's the smartest guy out there. The most genius person ever.
I wouldn't put any...
he's probably put a lot more thought into politics than I have.
Right. I wouldn't put any qualms on somebody saying Elon Musk is the smartest man alive. I would say, like, I believe that.
Yeah.
And until you show me somebody else who's done more for humanity and the economy, I believe it. I think we're good.
Yeah. So I would agree more of what he says than Whoopi Goldberg. That's it.
And you got a really good point there.
And therefore, I don't have to know everything about politics.
Right.
But I think I know enough to just be comfortable with something that I have no control over anyway.
Sure. And that's a good spot to kind of end. Like, you have a certain amount of control in this situation, but what you can really control is everything you're doing, right? So you can control how you make money. You can control how you pay your taxes. You can control who you marry. You can control the people you love. You can control everything in your sphere, right? And if you just fix your world on a microscopic level like that, I really think like that's going to do wonders for going forward in the world too.
Right on.
Like if everyone can work on themselves just a goddamn little bit, and try to be better people, I think everyone's going to win.
Well, I hope everybody was okay with our talk today.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
You know, it's great that we didn't. I don't think we argued.
I feel really good about it.
And
again,
and you know, we voted for different people.
Yep. And
I don't even know if I said this. I didn't vote for Trump. I voted for RFK.
You did.
I don't think I said it on the podcast.
You did.
I? Oh, okay.
You did. I was calling you out saying, like, why would you throw your vote into a...
I don't think we said that on the podcast, though.
It might have been. I don't remember when we've been recording.
Well, the reason is because my wife really didn't want me to vote for Trump.
So you found a loophole.
So I found a loophole. Well, I always vote independent anyway.
I know, yeah.
I would have voted for Trump probably, but I felt like it's more... I respect my wife more than to be, try to have an ego.
Yeah.
And I know he's going to win the state anyway.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and I'll be my rebel and I'll vote independent like I always do.
Right.
Out of respect for my wife.
I fully understood going into that office that everything I put on that ballot isn't going to fucking matter. Everything.
Yeah.
There's no point in it. It's like kicking a penny into a hall full of a billion pennies and trying to find my penny. Statistically, not
an analogy there.
That is an analogy. But I think this too. Like, I don't think you have to agree with your wife. I don't think you have to make the same vote.
No, we know she knows we don't agree on things,
right.
but I know it would really bother her if I voted for Trump.
Sure.
On a deep level.
Did you know that you can do it on the ballot and you don't have to tell her?
Right, but it would eat away at me.
Sure. But also, like...
But I'm comfortable, but I like RFK.
Yeah, that's good. And that's good. You made a vote that you wanted. I'm just saying, like, that's pressure from somebody to vote, like, Blake and Jessica.
Yep.
I love how they handle it. They say, like, we either vote together, like, as one cohesive unit, or we don't vote, because if we're going to vote against each other, we nullified everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's... And I understand both sides of it. I understand the individuality of wanting your own vote, but I also understand being a united front with your partner.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There's no real right or wrong way to do it. Just do the best you can, America.
Yeah.
Try to do good. Thank you.
And who knows, man? My wife is right about everything.
Maybe.
And we'll end there.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for staying with us. Big talk. I wanted to say thank you to you, Nick, for having a nice conversation with me.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I feel great about it. I mean, like, I love that we can still, like, we can have disagreements on how the world's ran, and we can still come together after 30 years and be best friends.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I hope that after our hour-long discussion about this, you learned a couple of things that maybe you're a little more optimistic about our future.
Yeah, and again, like, what we control is we can control everything we're doing right now.
Yes.
And I'm just going to try to be as good as I can going forward. If you enjoyed the episode, though, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I've been commenting on our YouTube. Ryan didn't comment last week.
You know what? I screwed up. One of our this is months ago if you're listening now, but one of our episodes, I think number 16 of this season, I put out the same day as like number 14, and so we didn't have one come out this week on the Investor Shed YouTube page.
Gotcha.
That's
whatever. Okay. I saw Dave. I commented back to him.
Yeah,
so
thanks, Dave.
I've been trying to comment on everyone commenting on the page, so we love you and we appreciate you. And we will see you next week on the Investor Shed podcast.
Where are you, Ryan? Where are you, Ryan?
Thank you so much for checking out the Investor Shed podcast. If you enjoyed your time, make sure to leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Follow along on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram at The Investor Shed for shorts and promos about each episode. Do you want to be a guest or know someone who has great real estate investing advice and stories? Reach out to us at theinvestorshed@gmail.com.